But for now, you landed here. And I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Sarah and I make videos about health and fitness and all of those things endurance sports. So if that's something that you're into, you can scroll on down there beneath this video and find a number of very conveniently placed buttons that will hook you up with hours worth of fun-filled entertainment, a side order of self-deprecation and ridiculous antics, and a little bit of this ugly mug. So thank you so much for joining me today. You are joining me for a bit of a fireside chat, and I'm going to be answering an age-old question for all of you, so buckle up. But as endurance athletes, hell, athletes in general, many of us tend to fall into a certain personality type. We tend to be high performers. We value personal responsibility and a high level of accountability. We value hard work and discipline, and we are ruthlessly committed to our passions, goals, and interests. This tends to play out in spades when it comes to our training. More often than not, this is a really good thing. It leads to improvements in our abilities and our performance and holding ourselves to a higher standard. However, it also sets a pretty precarious trap for us too, right? When we are side by something, work, life, stress, injury, illness, we have attached so much of our identity to the things that we love that we end up being saddled with these feelings of guilt and anxiety, failure, even depression when we can't follow through on our commitments. That very thing that supports a growth mindset and a high performance, it can also turn around and bite us in the ass. We get hit with negative self-talk, obsessive or addictive behaviors, and increased levels of stress and anxiety. And so quickly we forget that we can only control what we can control, and we are always looking for those ways to transcend the laws of nature, physics, biology. You know this to be true. All you have to do is observe your own thoughts and behaviors when you're sick. I think most of us kind of understand this phenomenon, right? We don't want to admit it, but we know it's true, and our brains cannot be trusted when we are out of commission. We often deal with this by crowdsourcing feedback. We jump onto forums and we ask like-minded athletes, hey, is it a good idea if I train while? Or what do I do when fill in the blank? It doesn't seem like a terrible idea in theory, but in practice it ends up being pretty terrible. Not necessarily because the advice is bad, but because we don't listen to it. We could find 30 people who tell us the right thing to do, but then we will latch on to that one person that tells us what we want to hear. And we latch on like a life raft off the Titanic, looking so badly to reassure us that what we want to hear is really the truth. But for now, you landed here. And I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And it's the age-old question of should you train while you're sick? And the answer is a resounding no. Now listen, I can sit here and I can make this whole video about going through research articles and papers and talk about the horrible physiological and biological effects of training while you're sick. But the reality is you could probably find that on your own. And there's a reason that you're not looking at that data. People have probably linked that data in a number of forums, whether you've asked the question or somebody else has. And there's a reason we scroll on past and we look for those answers that we really want to hear. It's that confirmation bias that fits in with our particular personality type. The reason I'm making this video is to give you a really pragmatic answer, to really drill it home why this is a bad idea. Maybe something will resonate with you and you will start to make the right decisions for your training and for yourself in the long term. Hopefully you'll be able to take this information and kind of tie it in with stuff that you already know, and maybe it'll hit home this time. But you are going to see very often out there in the answers on social media, hell, I think it's the first result if you search on Google that, hey, should I train while I'm sick? And they say, if you have symptoms above the neck, go ahead and train. If it's below the neck, don't train. Realistically, that's just a terrible answer. At best, it's incomplete, and at worst, it's extremely irresponsible. That's not what we need to be looking at in terms of a barometer of whether or not we should train while we're sick. Think of it this way. We have a limited number of resources, right? We have a limited amount of energy and biological resources on board that are going to support us standing upright, going to work, dealing with responsibilities, dealing with family, taking a shower, training. All of those things take a certain biological tax on our body, and it comes by way of energy. And the body has a finite resource of that energy. Now, we can perhaps enhance on that with good lifestyle choices by putting the right fuel into our bodies, by exercising and working out. All of those things put extra energy in the bank, absolutely, but those resources are still finite. And when we get sick, the body demands a very high proportion of those resources. We don't get extra energy or resources to fight off illness. We have to work with what we have. When we get sick, we have to try to make sure we are not trying to overdraft our account of energy, right? You're only going to be able to overdraft your bank account so much before you become bankrupt. The same thing goes for your body. And if you're trying to balance all of your life things and try to fight off illness and trying to train with purpose, you're going to overdraft and you are going to make yourself worse. The idea that you're going to be able to maintain or even build fitness while fighting off some sort of disease and managing everything else you need to manage in your life is just absolutely ridiculous. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up prolonging the period of time that you're actually sick. Now, a lot of people have it in their heads where, you know, I'll take an extra 2 days of being sick if I can just maintain my fitness, right? If I have a cold for 10 days instead of for 7 days, but I can train and maintain my fitness the whole time, then I'm going to be okay, right? That's really not going to be the way that it works, because you only have those finite resources. There's only so much to go around. So you're not only detracting from the body's ability to fight the illness, you're also trying to do work and train at a reduced capacity, and the quality of that work is going to be poor. You're going to be basically putting in junk miles. Try to actually do a high intensity workout when you're sick, and you're probably going to fail. Now let's say you're a hard ass and you say, hey, I can suffer. I'm not going to miss my marks. I'm going to hit all of my marks on my workouts even when I'm sick, because I know how to suffer and I'm not going to shut down and I'm not going to bail on a workout. Right, great for you. The thing is that every single exercise scientist and coach in the world is going to tell you that the adaptations that you make in your training come during recovery. If you think for a second that you're going to drain your body's energy stores while you're going to be training and allot the remaining energy stores to healing your illness, fighting a virus, fighting a bacteria, toxin, whatever the hell it is, and still recover to make those adaptations, you're high. It's just not going to happen for you. There's not enough energy to go around to do all of those things. You need to make sure that you are balancing your recovery and your training appropriately, and you cannot possibly do that when you're sick and when you're basically burning the candle at both ends. Now, I want to draw the distinction here between training and exercise, because those are two different things. Exercise is actually not necessarily a bad thing while you are sick. Now, this isn't just semantics. Training is the idea of exercising with the purpose of increasing your fitness, increasing your capacity, whether it's your power output on the bike or your speed out on the run or your swim times, whatever it might be. You are training with the purpose of adding in stimulus to get better over time. Exercise doesn't necessarily have to have that goal. Exercise is just moving the body. It's getting the blood flowing, the lymphatic system moving, right? Exercise can actually be okay when you're sick, especially if you don't have a very high fever or flu, where you're probably not wanting to exercise at that point anyway. But maybe getting up and doing some light exercise, whether it's going for a nice walk outside, getting some fresh air, again, getting that blood moving, getting the heart rate up just a little bit. Or if you can't go outside for a walk or a hike or something mild like that, maybe you do jump on your bike and you do a really easy spin, right? Maybe you sit upright and you check your emails, or you watch something good on TV. You're not really pushing anything there, but you're working at a really easy pace. Sometimes that helps to kind of clear up the nasal passages and really help you to feel better as well. You know, I've been in that situation where I've been sick, and once you lay down for a day or two, you start to feel worse because you've just been laying around, and as athletes, we tend to feel worse. I'm not telling you not to exercise. I'm telling you to make sure you can cultivate a balance if you are going to exercise, right? You're not pushing yourself too hard. You do have to look at the type of illness that you have. There is a little bit of truth to the above the neck, below the neck. If you have a head cold, you can probably push yourself a little bit harder, but you probably don't want to go much above your tempo. You probably don't want to be doing threshold or VO2 max level work. Use that week to work on your endurance work or work on a little bit of tempo work, but don't be pushing yourself too hard, because again, the energy stores are still reduced. You're still not going to be able to recover appropriately. Now, if you are going to include this mild level of exercise, the other thing you need to consider is you're going to need additional recovery. What you would usually use in terms of balanced recovery in the course of a training block or whatever it may be is not necessarily going to apply when you're sick. You may have to think, hey, you know, if I normally get 8 hours of sleep, I might have to take an extra hour and go to sleep an hour early and get that little extra rest to help my body to recover from that extra load. Something that you might be able to do as easily as walking to the mailbox on a normal day when you're sick could take a lot more out of you. You know, ideally you even take the first couple of days off or even more than that. You know, I know many of us are time starved. It's not so easy to say, hey, I'm going to do a workout and get some extra rest or go to bed an hour early. You do have to weigh those things out. You know, we often shoehorn that hour and a half that we have to work out, maybe 6 days a week, and then we're doing that between dealing with the kids or dealing with work things or life things or family things, whatever those might be. You have to decide, hey, you know, maybe it's better for me to take that hour and a half and take a nap. Maybe that extra 90-minute nap in the middle of the day will help my immune system fight back so I can get healthier faster. Or if you don't necessarily want to sleep, there's something to be said about just laying and putting your feet up, right? 2 days, 3 days is really not going to hurt you that much in terms of your training. And if it does last a little bit longer, well, you can use that time productively anyway. You don't necessarily have to set yourself back. Maybe you use that to take an opportunity to foam roll or to work on a stretching routine or maybe take up a little bit of light yoga, right? We're very tight as endurance athletes and sometimes we let those things go by the wayside. This is a time to focus on that. Or use that time to do a little bit of research on training methodologies. Maybe watch some videos or do something completely unrelated, something that you've always wanted to do. Watch a course on something else or spend some extra time with the kids or the family. I mean, time is precious. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. You have to make that decision depending on how you're feeling, right? It's going to be completely different depending on what type of illness you have. There's going to be a substantial difference between some kind of cold or some kind of more severe virus. You have to use common sense and really be honest with yourself. And if you are going to continue to do that light exercise, you have to let RPE be your guide. If you think that you can handle zone 3 and zone 3 is easy and it feels like you're labored in your breathing and that you're falling all over the bike and everything feels hard, that's your body telling you something. You need to listen. You cannot fight against the biology without losing something. People can destroy their entire seasons by not listening to their body and not giving the body what it needs in terms of recovery and rest and nutrition and hydration when they are sick. You have to be very cognizant and very delicate with the body that we are relying on to do a lot for us. Now, on the point of nutrition, it is such an important element of everyday life in general, but a lot of times we get a little bit remiss with that. We get a little bit busy. We work on convenience-based foods. Well, when you're sick, maybe you take that extra time to focus on nutrition. Do a little bit of research on what the best nutrition is for X type of disease or illness, right? Look at nutrient-dense foods. Look up ways to prepare foods in ways that you will like. Not everybody likes vegetables, but more often than not, you can make some kind of recipe that tastes delicious and something that's really nutritious. Stay away from the quick grab chips and pretzels and comfort foods and frozen pizzas. Things that are really appealing when you're sick because they're very low energy to make. Use that little bit of energy you would have used in terms of a workout and put it into the fuel that you can put in your body to feel better and heal up more quickly. I mean, this is absolutely not the time to restrict calories, looking at changing body composition. The body needs the extra energy right now. Give it the extra fuel that it needs. You don't have to break the bank and eat 10,000 calories a day, but a few hundred extra calories of really nutrient-dense food can really help you heal up a lot more quickly, and it's not going to change much in terms of your body composition. And you'll come back stronger and faster and burn off whatever extra calories you may have taken on board to heal if you allow the body to do so. And ideally, any of the good habits that you're going to build during this period of time, you're going to carry back into your training season and you'll come out all the better for it. Now listen, I am not completely clueless. I know many of you have jobs that are public facing or you have kids and you're constantly being inundated with germs and viruses and bacteria. And maybe you are getting sick pretty frequently throughout the year. And if you took the most strict approach of what I'm kind of recommending here, you'd never train again or you'd never make any advances. I completely get that. You have to kind of balance it. Again, it comes back to using the common sense. There's a difference between a cold and the flu. You need to be able to treat those things differently, really listen to your body, and try to exercise with some purpose. Stop focusing on the numbers and the metrics. Stop focusing on the fitness number and the power numbers. That's not necessarily going to be the most productive for you. You have to find some sense of balance. And I guarantee you, even if you are getting sick more frequently, all of these tips will certainly apply to getting you over the hump, at least more quickly. You're going to have less down periods if you just let yourself heal more quickly than usual. And the most important thing I can mention here is to be patient with yourself and be flexible. When you start to come back from the illness, when you start to feel the symptoms start to wane, you're not necessarily going to be at 100% right away. You might get on the bike on day 1 or 2 after being sick, and you might feel really fatigued or really awful. That's okay. That doesn't mean you've already lost all of your fitness, and it's not all that devastating. You're still kind of recovering from that low period. You just need to kind of be patient and work through it and be willing to adjust your plan accordingly. Or maybe you have one really good day after you come back and you're feeling overconfident, right? I had a really good workout. My heart rate was great, and my cadence was really good, and I felt awesome, and the RPE was really low. Well, don't necessarily count on that happening the next day. You might come back the next day and feel really exhausted. It's okay. You just need to be flexible enough to kind of adjust your training plan around a little bit to offset that lagging fatigue that comes after we are sick. A really good rule of thumb to use when you are coming back from illness, especially if you're following some kind of a training plan, usually that has kind of a progressive load attached to it, is to, if you've been down for a week or less, you can probably pick up where you left off. You just kind of skip the week that you lost and you move on to the next block. But if you've been off the bike for more than a week or so, you might want to step back a week in your training plan. Just kind of repeat the last week that you did, progress back through, and then come back to it. It's usually going to be pretty quick that you're going to regain your fitness and your capabilities after you come back from illness. In fact, for some people, it's a good opportunity to see bigger gains than they would have if they trained all the way through. And the reason for that is that many of us tend to tickle that line between overtraining or non-functional overreaching, right? We're constantly pushing ourselves. Oh, there's an extra Zwift race today, or I was supposed to have a day off today, but I feel kind of good, so I'm going to push myself to do a VO2 max level workout. And we start to kind of move backwards a little bit. And when we're sick, yes, we're sick, but we're also using that time to maybe treat ourselves a little bit better, to recover a little bit better, to nourish our bodies properly. And then when we come back after that first day or two, all of a sudden we've rebounded, and then a week later we're better off than we were before we were even sick. So you have a chance to turn things around and do the right things while you are sick by not focusing on training. Do not train while you are sick. Exercise with some common sense and do so sparingly, but do not train while you are sick. I guarantee you, if you listen to these tips, it will pay out for you. It's going to make you better off in the long run. You'll have the least amount of detriment to your fitness and your power and any other output metric if you just kind of take it easy on yourself and you don't push yourself to train. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to derail your training. I'm here to tell you something that I've been burned by several times in my athletic career, and I've seen several of my friends and people out there in the ether that is the endurance world do the same thing. So don't make the same mistakes that I did. Don't make the same mistakes that a lot of folks do. Take it from the people who are experienced, the pros, the elites, the coaches. They'll all tell you the same things that you don't want to hear. When you're sick, don't train. But if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down below. You can leave me the hate down below and say, F you, I'm going to train anyway. I can take it. Hit the thumbs up if you have a second. It really does help the channel and the video out quite a bit. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll leave 2 more training videos up over here for you guys. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. See ya.